My pleasure to be here tonight and have the opportunity to introduce Professor Friedman. I have one little bit of housekeeping to do, and that is to let all the residents of North Cowichan know we've entered upon this exercise with Professor Friedman to inspire us, to bring ideas forth. We haven't made any decisions, so these are all concepts and ideas. Don't anybody think we made a decision without you. We will involve you before we... I see Cam Campbell there, and he's grinning as I say that, and probably Christopher too. We're going to talk with the public to a great extent before we make any decisions on either of these sites. And that's important because we've been through some public exercises already, especially on the Chemainus Elementary School site. And I would have to say we were not inspired. I think I can speak for council to say we were not inspired with the choices and the designs we had. And that, I think, I don't know about the rest of council, but that was kind of weighing on me. And when I was able to come to Professor Friedman's last presentation here, I just thought we have to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to have that horsepower of that mind of Professor Friedman and those wonderful students to look at our situation and see how we could do something differently, very positively, including some form of attainable, affordable, innovative housing, which does, I believe, density in a brilliant and more sustainable and more productive way. So I'm hugely glad that Professor Friedman, who has been very generous of his time and his energy and his thoughts, has been able to come to talk with us again and present some of these concepts. His work presents numerous options, so we have a lot to think about, a lot to choose from, and it may even lead us to our own version of them. And I can tell you, he is so generous, he has offered repeatedly to work with us if we refine the design and actually are able to move something ahead. So Professor Friedman has 30 years as a professor at McGill, and he has written numerous books and has been involved in some absolutely amazing buildings and homes. So I'd like to invite Professor Friedman forward, and if we could all show him our appreciation. That'd be great.
Thank you. So the purpose of the meeting today is to bend minds. What I would like to do is to introduce you to new ideas, or ideas that are relevant to this place, but really they are a new concept and a new approach to the design of communities that many places are now entertaining. I believe that we are living in a very important time. Important time not only to communities, but important time to the planet in general. And those important times require that we will adopt new vision, or at least we will understand the challenges that we are facing. I think that some of them has to do with what's going on around us, our relationship with nature and things that happen now around the world that affect the way we see things. So this project is not about only that site, but I believe that we are looking into responding to some of these challenges. Perhaps one of those challenges is our relationship with nature and how we did exploit our natural resources. I know that British Columbia is now facing that battle with the federal government about this pipe that will come your way, but this is the outcome. In other words, the idea that we are seeing now is that we exhausted the world's resources, and we need to be very careful in how we continue to do so. We saw the aftermath in the past few days of Hurricane Florence. This is not a freak accident. If you were to check the statistics, you will see that these hurricanes are happening much more often. And the rationale for that is global warming that we are facing. And we need to address and create communities that respond to these challenges. So some of them also need to be factored in what we do. This summer I spent some time in your area here. Was in Salt Spring and I was in other places and I was scared. I never saw a situation, a province that was under fire and every place was at fire. And I believe that British Columbia does not get the amount of rain that it used to get in the past, that used to put this fire off. I believe that some of the thing has again to do with the way we organize and build our community. It's that simple. And then the New World Order that we are quite familiar with. I can tell you that there are many, many places around Canada that has their economic livelihood based on export to the United States. And with the discussion of NAFTA, the things about the bravado that we're trying to show doesn't work. Some of these places may see unemployment rising. And this, once again, requires of us to think about our economic outlook and situation in a completely different way. In other words, our economy is changing, and I believe that this will be one of the issues that we'll have to address in the future. But this brought us here today. Will I ever own my own home? And I believe that there are in many of our communities, there are so many places and people who are not able to be part of that community, or they are there, but their ability to be able to own a home is becoming ever so difficult. And this is very difficult from those who live in the 1940s and 50s, and from those who, my generation, who were able in the 1970s and the 1980s to buy a house. And the reason for that is we are living now to a perfect storm. There are so many conditions that have become so daunting in holding places and holding people from buying a home. And one of them is the fact that job security disappeared. Companies have no mercy anymore. If they see their profit line decline, they will lay people off. And young people, primarily those who graduated from universities, with huge loan or student debt, are facing mountain of challenges in being able to acquire that home. And then, after the Second World War, we adopted a way of building low-density housing. We loved them. We love these 2-car or 4-car garages. We love to live in these places. We fell in love with them, but we are now living through the bad consequences of doing them, and I will talk about it in the coming minutes. But basically, 4 to 7 units per acre does not build affordable housing, and we have to think differently. And then the rising energy cost. It was not a factor in the past, but it has become a factor today. We pay more for energy, and it is for people, low-income people, it become a very important factor, and again, we need to address it as well. And then this family, you can find them in Jurassic Park. There are not many of them left. There are some, there are definitely a few. But once again, our demographic landscape changed. We have many single people, we have elderly people, we have young couples who do not have kids, and many of them are people who do not have 2-income families. So they don't have the ability to buy, and they cannot find the product, the type of homes that can accommodate their needs. So this is, again, another important element. And then lack of innovation. We did not, unlike other industry, like the automotive or the electronic, we do not have the same type of innovation that make housing cheaper. Builders, to the most part, build the same type of home with the same type of method without looking into innovation. So all these things, all these elements were combined together to make buying a home unfortunately, much more expensive. I believe that it's decision time. It is decision time to many municipalities and communities around Canada. It is a time where many towns and communities need to say, we like the same old, same old. We are good, we are happy. But some may say that the future will require us to at least rethink, if not in some cases, to make an 180-degree turnaround. We, I believe, need to be much more innovative. Crises begin when you try to ignore the facts, when you put blinkers on your face, when you say nothing is happening, but something is happening. The fact that young people cannot afford to buy a home turn us into a community of two-tier communities, those who have, who doesn't have, and those who do not have, which, once again, there are so many things. So I believe that we need to entertain good ideas. And this project today, the one that I'm going to present you, it's about thinking fresh, thinking how we can adjust and tune up our communities for that emerging changes in our society and the world. The word that is commonly used to address such issues is sustainability. It is a well-talked-about word. You hear it a lot, sustainability and so on. But in its basic form, it's a simple message. We can no longer live on this planet while exhausting resources of future generations. Forget about it. We cannot be selfish anymore. We cannot use all the resources. We cannot just build for ourselves, but we need to leave something for those generations who will come after us. Building housing or affordable housing is exactly that. It's making sure that every person who was born in North Cowichan will be able to buy a home here in this community. It is unthinkable that someone will be born here and they will have to move away and they will not be able to build and enjoy this place. Now, if I'm going back to the very basic principle, sustainability suggests that what we do needs to be affected, or we need to understand that 4 elements need to be present in whatever we do. That we need to understand the social makeup of a community. We need to understand the culture of the place. When I come to a place, usually I start to read the local paper. I understand that North Cowichan is not Vancouver and definitely not Montreal. So there are very important elements that are unique to you. And they need to be valued and embedded in every decision we do. And then there is the environmental issue, and then the economy. In another way, what I would like to suggest that there are 4 elements that I identify in my work that need to be included, and I will refer to them in tonight's presentation. We need to build self-sustaining communities. If you build a place that forever rely on outside sources, it is not good. If we can detach from outside resources. Another one is that whatever you do on any of the elements that I mentioned, you don't create a negative impact. When we build this amazing highway all over the place, people will drive more. Money is now invested. We are retooling a highway in Montreal at the cost of about $5 billion with a B dollars. And this was a mistake at the time when it was built in the first place. There was no attention paid to public transit. People could have make public transit more affordable. It was not done. We need to understand that everything has a cost and life cycle cost. Meaning that if you build something today, you build it well. And you don't have to replace it every year or every 10 years and so on. And then everything has to do with supporting relations. When you build a bike path, it is not a bike path. It's not just for leisure. You build an exercise machine that people will be healthier, they will live longer, they will go less to hospital, and we will have more money to invest in other things like good education. So the idea of how you build community has a lot to do with our other system that we need to understand and appreciate. I was very fortunate. I'm just celebrated my 30th year, as was mentioned, at McGill University. I'm starting my 31st. And I count my blessing. I count my blessing. I arrived to this place, I believe, one of the most beautiful countries in the world, if not the best country in the world. And my dedication is, my work was, I would like that people everywhere will be able to enjoy the wonderful life and luxuries and opportunities that I had. So in the past few years, I traveled with my team to different communities across Canada. We crisscross the nation and work in places in Iqaluit in the north, addressing issue of First Nation. We worked in places all the way from Fredericton, Alberta, every small town, Ontario, and so on. So we work with many communities. And the idea is that you work and you start to usher in idea. You start to change the mind and bend the mind, and this is what I've done. So this project that I did with my wonderful students is one of these projects. Now, once again, something that started almost with a sheer opportunity to meet some mayors happened up to be this project. And it's happened because of enthusiasm about organizer of meeting who wanted to suggest and bring people together. I was in Chemainus in March. Bev took us around and so on, and I stood near all the murals and I read the writing on them, and I was amazed by the culture, by all the things that I learned, what the walls taught me. I also like these things that I will definitely try to introduce in Montreal, husband drop-off in some of the hairdressing salons. But this was wonderful, wonderful place. It has the culture. It has the makeup of a beautiful, beautiful place that need to be really treasured. And then I started work. Brian Hill gave me this wonderful book. And this is a picture that was taken, if I'm not mistaken, on Maple Bay Road. And it showed people. And I read this book very enthusiastically, understanding that the brave people who crossed the mountain and come to these places and started to build their homes. And they welcome other people to come and live among them, and here a community was born. And this is the outcome today. What a wonderful, wonderful place. So the continuity, what we do need not to end. We need to make sure that every generation will have the same luxuries and opportunity of the one before that. And this is what this project is all about. So the project is located, it is an infill project. These are the sites, and this is a close-up of those sites. We were given the Chemainus Elementary site and the Humbert site. They are classic infill projects. This one is once again in the heart of the community, and I do understand. I work across Canada. I do understand people concerned, saying they are not good concerns. It's concerns. And I believe that they all need to be addressed and listened to. And this is what our beautiful democratic system. I've been to places where the government say you move, they move. We are not this nation, and we have to value who we are. But once again, things need to be balanced. And as the mayor introduced the thing here, the challenge here, this is something that needs to be addressed. So what I would like to do is to take you through the process, how we started, how we worked on preparing this affordable housing, and what was the outcome. It was divided to 4 elements that address some of the issues, and I would like to take you briefly through some of these aspects. The first one was existing condition. You don't begin by bringing template solution. Our work began by doing careful study, and the team, the planning team of North Cowichan gave us so much information. So we had one researcher study all the data. We put our hands on the polls of the community, who they are, who are the people, how much money they make. And we created all these tables that studied their condition, their situation very, very clearly. how much money they earn, and how does it work, and what kind of homes are being built. All that stuff was highly investigated and studied before we came up with this. Once we knew the income, we started to create income before taxes. These come from official side, government side, and we started to build up the median price, if they put 10% down or 20% down, and what kind of home they can afford, and how much the home will cost. And we set up this as a target in which we wanted to achieve in our work. So we had a target work. So it is not an exercise only about beautiful design, but these are designs that need to meet needs of the people who live in there. I don't expect you to read that. Now, but this is something that is important to let you know, that when we work, we are not pie in the sky. In other words, we want to value and understand the local zoning and how and should they be changed. So we studied there too. These were also the elements that we studied. Another important element is we are seeing now dramatic increase in energy, something that the planet cannot tolerate. We need to come up with solutions, local solutions, that reduce energy consumption of a place. And the way we did it is by looking at the orientation of the sites, as you can see here, of the orientation of the sites, and how the building, or many of them, can be oriented for what we call passive solar gain. In wintertime, they will not have to spend too much money on heating system, and so on. And how we can block wind, and so on. So these are elements that also valued, included in our work. Now, the question is how you make affordable housing. How you bring the cost down. And what I would like to do is to put my professor hat, if you don't mind, for a split second. There will be exam at the end. No, just joking, just joking. But I would like to take you to the process of how one brings the cost down and how you design such places. The idea is not to lower the value. The idea, the basic idea behind innovative, attainable, affordable, is to come up with solutions that make not only economic sense, but they will be nice. Nobody wants to stigmatize the place. So we recognize that this we cannot afford. This is something that we all crave to have. But 4 to 7 units per acre with large streets does not produce affordable housing. So what we understood that we need to increase density. In other words, we need to move to maybe other forms of housing like townhouses, semi-detaches, perhaps apartment buildings, and make them look good. So this was one of the most important elements that we included. The second one is build roads. We, over the past few decades, insisted that homes, that streets, need to be 60 feet wide. I can assure you that in this road, in every place in America, you can bring a pillow and a mattress, sleep here from 9 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, and nothing will happen to you. But we insist on having them. When you do this, we spend our money, our resources, on things that people are not using. So I believe that narrow roads should be a solution. And it's not narrow for the sake of being small. It's the sake of being smart. We don't waste resources if we don't have to. When you build this every 5 years or 10 years, the place needs to be resurfaced. Again, our tax money. We spend unnecessarily amount of money, and all these savings count. We also can do what the Scandinavian and the Dutch are doing. Again, wonderful places. What happens in such places, they have shared street. They say, in place, local streets, in which people don't walk much or don't drive much, why should we build sidewalks and a street? So another smart solution called Street for Living is this type of stuff that was introduced in many of these places, and you can see it throughout Europe now. So this is something that we did. This is, again, very nice homes. that look at time in some places, again, I apologize for saying like car washes. And we insisted on having them. And when I looked at this house, I said, gee, how do they enter to this place? Where is the main door? So once again, communities that have fantastic amount of garages are not nice place because there are many curb cuts. You don't have a place to plant trees. And what are streets without trees? When you have trees without trees, you don't have birds. You don't have benches to sit under. You change the dynamic of the place. And what we attempted to do is create places where you park in common, and then the people, I feel sorry for them in this community in Washington State, they have to walk 50 meters to their house. With us, I think that I mentioned it before, if you don't park in front of your flat screen TV, something is wrong with your house. We insist on that. Once again, we need to change the way we do things. And then we insist on having a little ranch, an eating farmhouse at the back. This is the backyard. And this is sods, consume lots of water and not good, but we still insist on having, which I understand. It's part of the wonderful life that we are accustomed to. But if you build, each house has something like this, it will never be affordable. And I believe that space needs to be shared. And this is a very important element in how we think. The single-family home was not only a wonderful solution at the time, but it turned us into individualist, which is fine. It is the culture of Canada today in most places. 65% live in single-family homes. Solution begin, and once again, these are not sort of social vision, but solution begin that we give something from us to the community, and then we create these wonderful spaces. This is one of my favorite streets. It was built in a town called Harlem, in a neighborhood called the Butter Market in Harlem. And I like this place. I like this place because it was built in the 1700s and never lost its charm. And this is what affordable housing or housing is all about. Narrow streets, houses that are attached to each other, and ideally beautiful, beautiful design. And it is one of the wonderful neighborhoods. I can talk about it for a long time. And all the flowers and the trees and all that stuff. So, let's visit the Chemainus elementary site. So we will go and visit, and we will see what we have done there. We were given wonderful, wonderful information by the city. I was here in March. And once again, it is an infill site. Everything it's surrounded and enclosed. The school is there, and it is surrounded and enclosed by housing. And what we started by setting, once again, I do not expect you to read all that, but I expected what we have is we introduced several principles that are extremely important to what we did. We didn't want to create a situation where you will face garage doors, as I mentioned before. We wanted to create community where people are active. Activity is important to our health. We looked into simple form. We wanted to create a place in which people can gather. Building communities, building housing is a technical act. Making them work, and bringing people together will be very important. And we introduced some other principles that I will point as I go through. In order, as the mayor mentioned, in order to help you make decisions, we introduced, in this regard, 9 options. So it is not only the images that you see here on the panel around this room, but each of the options here, each of the illustration here, is accompanied by many more ideas that make improvement on this suggestion. So this is one of them. This is more or less the number of units that I will ask to do. So there is a meandering road from Servant Road, go all the way to Elliott, and there are a bunch of homes around it. We kept the skate park, and we introduced a nice play area too. In all the design, we do understand that people who live in the area have concern. I do understand that. So in all the design, we created green buffers green buffer. The houses, the proposed houses are not really making, there will not be anything built next to the existing home. So green buffer is there. And in this design, what we attempted to do is create a wonderful street. This will be a shared street. This will be a street in which people will be able to walk. Cars may reach those places and they will drive slowly. There will be speed bumps and so on, the way it's organized in many other places. But this will be one of the streets, and there will be housing facing these streets. The next solution attempted to introduce higher density housing. And the idea was to introduce housing, high density, meaning duplex, I will talk about it later, on the perimeter of the site and create gathering places. These have become extremely important. Gathering place to me is extremely important. Life in communities, as we say in the 1940s, we build things in isolation. I believe that sustainability is about opportunity for family to get together, people to meet each other. I don't know if you walk. When I walk and somebody says, stop me on the street, a neighbor, and say, how are you? And tell me a joke. Tell me about, oh, I saw something. I saw your child. She grew up. It lifts me up. I feel better. I start to smile. I say, how come such a simple sentence changed my life for the day, make my day? This is what community is all about. Creating places, bringing people to meet each other and create this wonderful place and not building in isolation. And I truly believe that this is what can happen in such of these places. Now, once again, I included many pictures from other places to see that this is not an anomaly. These are a community in Montreal in which they use my houses. And as you can see, there are houses, even parents can watch their kids from the window playing here. And this is, once again, the idea that I wanted to attain. These are luxury homes today. It started as affordable housing, but once again, the community blossomed and became so successful that everyone wants to move there. And then we introduce a street that will face, housing will be facing the street. As you can see, we progressively up the density. And in other words, we started with low number of units, and we went on to higher density. So this is 35 units per acre. But the basic idea is to create a street where first responders, ambulances, emergency vehicle will be able to enter. There is a T at the end. And as you can see, large green buffer. People who live here will not even hear them. So there is a green buffer in between, and you can see the school here as well. So this is, again, something that we introduced. And what we wanted to create is urban agriculture. It was important to us that people will have opportunity to grow healthy food, to be active. In many of the places that I'm designing, I also plant, I call them seeds of civility. Urban agriculture is not a place to grow your food, to grow your tomato. It's a place to meet your neighbor. It's a place to celebrate life sometime and say, gee, I have this amazing, amazing produce that I produce, something to talk about, and we introduce it in many of our designs. This is another design, and as you can see, here you walk, you drive from several roads, you park here, and you go to from this passageway, you walk here and you enter to these units. Some of them will be single families, other ones will be duplexes or triplexes. We suggested different opportunities. But the basic idea is to build a single row of housing that will face this amazing park. And this is the solution here. And this is how you will feel when you walk there. Houses facing the park, and I believe that, once again, what I don't want to happen is that no one will say that it will be a beautiful project. It will not be. Nobody will ever stigmatize. We will talk about the units later, but it will be a wonderful opportunity to build. And what we did in all our design is do permeable place. Now, this is a place that I visited, and I showed it last time. This is in Green Wave in Vienna. All these projects are award-winning projects that are now become the marker of how you need to design. And look, in this project that consider affordable, you have green roof in every house. This, no doubt, was built with government support. But as you can see, you will not drive here, but you ride your bike and you enter, and this is how the place was designed. And also all this I can talk for a very long time. And then we introduced this project. There are several variations. You can see there is another variation that the houses are here, but the basic idea that you drive from Elliott, you park here, and you walk right here into your own place. And it is a walkability. I truly believe that not walking is not only important for our health, but it is an opportunity for us to meet each other. It's amazing that I meet all my neighbors on my way to get fresh milk or bread. Opportunity to walk, you need to create this opportunity. And what we need to do is to build communities. And this is what we try to do all along. How it was built? I want to take you to Leiden. This is Leiden in Holland. And they designed these places. Again, award-winning project. And you can see right here a view into the place. Architects like to take photos without people. So, but I can tell you that on Saturday, this plane is packed. They look, talk to each other. There is a bench to sit on and so on. It creates this wonderful, wonderful environment. North Cowichan can be the same. They will have, I believe that they should come to us when we build it and admire our work. We don't need to spend all this money going and returning back and say, I saw this amazing place. We here can build all that stuff. North Cowichan is a daring municipality that engages, and I believe that many of the things that we talked about can happen here in our backyard, and I believe they will. Now, moving here, we move into a higher density, and as you can see, these are walk-up, sort of low-rise apartment building, again, big green buffer facing that space. And this is how the back of those places, and this is like, again, kids are playing, family get together, and it will be wonderful just to be around and enjoy the place. What we did for every project, we demonstrated how we need to alter the zoning. And of course, what we attempted to do in order to save land is to bring the houses closer. What we have done is push over the years the house to the back. There's huge setbacks. And once again, that requires take more land. Saving will come by lowering, by shortening, bring the house to the front, that in all the places will create what we call human scale. When you are in a wide street, you don't feel good. You feel much better when you are next to each other, when the street is narrow, and then there are beautiful, beautiful trees all over the place, and this is what we attempted to create here. For me, affordable housing is not just about building housing, as I mentioned, but we included many sustainable features, and we listed them down here. But I believe that housing, good housing, can turn people's life around. And I think that including public art in a place turn the community into educators. Now, people say, well, vandalism and all that stuff. If you will not do it and you will not start, you will never build into a place the culture of admiring art. Kids will live without visiting a museum and will not appreciate it. So taking chances, making your people here educated and introducing all kinds of places, our local art that educate you about the place is becoming ever so important, and I want to see it here. And we have permeable spaces, surfaces in this place, green buffer and urban agriculture, saving on infrastructure. And as you can see, when you build this one, yes, I could have do pie in the sky and move the buildings around. And what we attempted to do is to do it simple to build. The infrastructure will be not costly. And these are more elements like high density, affordable housing, and adaptable dwelling, on which I will talk later. Moving into the Hamburg site was another challenge, and it was wonderful contrast in the way we have done it. Once again, it is not far away from existing home, but it's a forested site. British Columbia has so many wonderful trees. I believe that we are now understanding the value of tree to our ecosystem. I believe that we understand the trees can become a portion, like this one, of our biodiversity. We cannot simply chop them. And what we attempted to do is to include them in our work. These are some of the principles. Similar to what we mentioned before, forest preservation was extremely important. We wanted to include macro-sustainable features and offer mixed type of dwellings in them. And what we created is this. We created a guideline that, once again, suggests how to build in forested area. There are all kinds of guidelines that introduce here. How you build without cutting, without cutting fewer trees. I've been in work in projects like this, and this is something that I did with my students near Quebec City. And when we started to design this place, what we have done is suggested that we need to change regulation. Lots should not be 50 by 100, but we should be able today make them 20 by 100. And people should not have swimming pool in them, cutting tree for them, but the developer will build a public swimming pool right in that place to which people will go and, yes, meet each other and talk to each other finally. I talk sometimes to people who tell me, I don't see my neighbor. I wake up in the morning, go to the garage, click the door, drive, I don't see. This is not the society that we want to build. We want a society where people care for each other. And we built a road, a narrow road. It was 18 feet wide, with 18 feet, foot and a half, with 18 inches sidewalk. And as you can see, in the same level of the street, and the water returned to where it belonged. And we built a place around the boulders. We did not dynamite. I know, and I respect builders, but they love to dynamite. See something, oh, this is a ton of dynamite. We'll do the job. I believe that we need to learn to work with this as well. And this is how the house in this place looks like. You can wake up in the morning and tore a leaf from your balcony, and this is what we wanted to create. So here too, we created 12 options. 12 options we created here, and this is some of them. We can do straight houses, but we wanted to create something organic. And once again, in the option, we created a different alternative. But as you can see, much of the land was left green with a path around them, So this is, again, something very important. And we created this square, like at the back of the road. And once again, place of congregation. And what I envision that in the future, this place in the future, will be a place that on Canada Day, they will cut that cake. There they will have the garage sale. This is all the community will get together. Providing opportunities will be very important in creating these communities. And once again, walkable streets. This is Malmö in Sweden. In Sweden, every new development needs to have unipavers because it's permeable, but it's also nice. And as you see, these are bright colors. Now, what we have done is cover our streets with asphalt that collects heat and create urban heat island. And they do not. They learn, they change the color. And I believe that many of the ideas in our design work on that. We created a few clusters, once again, permeable spaces. We can do a garage in each building, but what we attempted to do is to do joint garages, common garages, and then leave more space around green houses and so on, and there can be even more trees in the place, but the number of trees that we wanted to keep is big. And then you have this one, houses that will be located and surrounded a congregation place, a place that will be built here. This again raises the number of dwellings to 48 units, 48 lucky families that will be living here. And this is how the place can look like. So homes, townhouses, built around, kids and family together to place. I saw a beautiful gazebo in that place, places of congregation in which people will be delighted to live and visit and so on. And in many of these places, and this is one of, again, award-winning, one Canadian Award of Excellence, you can see in this one, people do not have garages. They drive in common on the side, in between houses, to make for a beautiful place. And this is something, again, that we build, and you can see that they have this loft type of place and so on. And this is, again, another project in Montreal where you have these narrow houses similar to the one that I designed, and they're all facing this public square that is beautiful. The point is that housing, or lower or innovative housing, can be good looking as well. But we wanted to suggest that there is opportunity either here or there to build a single apartment building. This will also be affordable, and there will be narrow road leading into it. You park under the building or here, and you can live and move right into this place. And here too, we looked into sustainability and all the sustainable aspects in many ways. Again, permeable spaces, center for recycling. In other words, many things that other places take for granted, we do not do. In Sweden, in Malmö, builders in every new development are obliged to collect all the water from all the roof and all the gutter and lead them to a public space. They recycle everything. Despite the fact that it's a nation full of water, they still understand that we are not wasting, and there is value there, and they introduce it in so many ways. And again, these are the elements that I will be talking about when I introduce the affordable dwellings. So this leads us into the last chapter in my presentation. And this is, again, another important feature that I would like to share with you. So how you bring the cost down, how you make affordable housing. I would like to begin by sharing with you something, and again, sharing the ideas about the design, and put my professor hat for a second more. First, let me make a statement here. Affordable housing is a stigmatizing name. It segregates people by income. Often there are things that are causing fear in the community. What kind of people it will attract? Do I want to live there? Who will it be? I truly believe that we like to care. When you call an ambulance, you want, or a fire truck, you want the bravest firefighter to live next to you. You want your teacher to be taught by the best graduate of UBC. You want to be served with a smile in a restaurant and in a store. But sometimes those very same people will leave them out of the formula. We don't care for them. Affordable does not mean cheap. Affordable means smart. Using small amount of material, but using them well. And this is what we are today. In every new house that we build, there is a little one that wants to jump out. People pay so much money for spaces on which they don't even set their foot. People buy homes and they're committing their life to paying mortgages for a very long time. What an error! When my wife and I went to the banker to get a mortgage, the banker said, I will give you more. You are two professors. You have good income. Take more. And I said, gee, this sounds to me fishy. Why offer us more money? I said, no, I want to take less. Right away, I see that he was offended. How come this guy wants less money? We work extremely hard. In the first few years, I had a tenant, and what I did was work extra night. I moonlighted a lot, and in 7 years, we paid everything. We leave houses and we pay for them for 25 years. What a horrible mistake. What we did with our money? Invested in our kids' education. Went with our kids we traveled with them all over the world. Once again, we invested, we give lots to charity and so on. So these are important elements. So the idea of building something that you don't use and you pay it for 25 years will cause problem when you get older. This is definitely not a house. This looks like a good variation. I don't know why they need 4, 5 types of roofs. I don't know. This looks like a house from Switzerland. I don't know. This is, once again, a house near Montreal. I believe that we need to have small footprint. And we forgot how to design smartly. If you have a place where you have a bathroom here and a bathroom there, the plumbers, when he will see your plan, will rub their hand and say, oh, finally I can buy a car to my child. Once again, they need to design differently, and what we attempted to do is back-to-back plumbing and use spaces much more efficiently. This does not make the place cheap, but it is a clever design. We tend to believe if your kitchen does not have enough space for you to square dance here, and you don't have granite countertop, something is wrong with your house. Give it back. Buy another one. I believe that this is not what we mean. We need to offer choices. People do not need to be forced to buy large homes, and we need to offer choices, and this is what we attempted to do. I don't know if you are familiar with my work. I started at McGill in 1990. In my first year of teaching, I designed the Grow Home. Our basic idea was to design a home with upper space, this was space empty, for people to divide it later. We built, our home was amazingly successful. Many thousands of units have been built. And in 1999, I traveled to China to receive the United Nations World Habitat Award for our work on behalf of myself and my team. Once again, someone noticed. We opened the door and we gave home to thousands of people. First home that we built there. We continue with the next home. And the next home, if this was the Grow Home, the next home allowed people to choose the quantity of space that they need and can afford. And again, thousands of units were built across Montreal and so on. And the information is available for free. You can go and find the books. I wrote about it, several books. And now we're working on Domus Ex Machina that attempt to understand or introduce those features. The plumber will not be able to buy a car for their child here. It will all be simple to build. It was designed for simplicity of construction. And we developed a software that enabled people to choose the cabinet that suits their need and budget most. Once again, I wrote about it, and I would like to suggest those of you who would like to find about this idea can find in this book. So we selected 6 types of homes for North Cowichan, and they are all based on these very same principles. This is our, if you want, the smallest one. This is 14 by 34. It's a simple space, and you can see that the kitchen and the bathroom and everything was done here right on top of each other. You can see, so the plumbing go in one line. You don't have to spend way much money. And we created a place that will look or looks wonderful. We attempted to create something that will be beautifully aesthetic. And this is how the study in this room will look like. And as you can see, this is something that they may select from a catalog. So this is the design in this place. We follow this one with another single-family home. This is a larger model, and for people who want to spend more, there is an unfinished lower level, and then there are 2 rooms here, and of course things can be developed even further. And this is how the place will look like inside. This is a prefabricated stairs that will be brought and hooked up here. And this is a view of the living room. We continued this one with a duplex. One family live in the bottom, and another one live upstairs. And this can address some of the solutions that we find today in housing. Multi-generational family, perhaps. The older parent can live in the bottom, and the married child can live on top. In all the design, we introduce reduced mobility. We design a place in which people can wheel themselves on a wheelchair right in, and they're included in our report. And this is how it will be. This is in the kitchen, and you can see somebody can sit on a chair, a child, do their homework, and finally talk to their parents. And we created a triplex, 3-family unit, once again, all affordable. And there are 3 families that share the same place. And again, you may have a single person. They need not to have to buy a Mercedes. They can buy a Honda Civic, and they will be happy when rent or buy a single floor that has a bedroom, as you can see. In all these places is a bedroom, and it is a wonderful opportunity for some of them. And they will have a kitchen that they will select, and as you can see, this is an urban cultivator. Today, kitchens are becoming farms, and you can go, this is very affordable appliance, and you can grow your own food in your house, in this place. And then we did the walk-up. This is a sort of apartment building. You walk in, and there are apartments on either side, or you can combine them to make a big apartment and so on. and this is how the place will look like, the interior of the place, the living and the dining room. And this is the apartment building. Once again, can be done. I believe that future design will look into it and make it nicer than that and so on. And this is how the bedroom in such a place may look like. I appreciate the opportunity that we were given. I think that we are living in a time of change. We need to retool our mind and our strategies. We need to understand that the world is changing around us. And to the wonderful leaders of North Cowichan, who I met this morning, wonderful group of people, unbelievable group of people, nice people that would like to see change happening. I believe that recognition that we need to think about everyone. We need to think outside the box has become extremely important. And if you are to look into the future. I believe that the world is becoming greener. I believe that some of the disasters that we are following, the fires and the hurricane and so on, need to send us very important alarm systems. Something is happening, and we, human beings, has something to do with it. Creating places that are greener, that are sustainable, have become extremely important. Every community needs to happen, and we need to act cohesively to bring about this change. So this is something that happened. Today I drove, and I believe in an electric vehicle, but we are changing commute. We need to make people walk. We need to make people active. We need to make them use bicycle. We need to introduce public transit in a more interesting way, and this is another element that needs to change. So many of our projects are looking into different type of commute. We are changing urbanity. We are changing urbanity, and we are now moving into a time that of recognition. We recognize that building sprawling communities with 4-car garages is not something that we can afford to do as society and as community, as a municipality, and I believe that this is very important. Another aspect has to do with the voice that we found. I think that we are living in a wonderful nation. I believe that the greatest of nations has to do not but how the well-to-do is doing. Sometimes I see lists of how many millionaires and billionaires Canada have. This is not important. The greatest of nations has to do with how we care for those who don't have. That we don't throw people under the bus. That we give opportunity to everyone. These are the mark of the nation. What is the size of the hole in our safety net? And this is something, again, that we need to care for. And I truly believe that what we did here did not, as the mayor mentioned, there are many opportunities here that will be considered in the future. But what he attempted to do is understand or introduce a new perspective into this region and into this community that will see things happen differently. Affordability is not only about housing. Affordability is about building communities, and I believe that this is what we attempted to do. And many thanks for the opportunity that we were given. Thank you.